So here is another one that is not fired. So this is what it's going to look like when you did it. This is the Transparent Classic Crackle, the CC-101. It actually has a pink dye to it that obviously burns off during the firing in the kiln because it will be transparent, okay? It is AP approved, meaning non-toxic glaze. But of course, because of the surface issues, the fact that it is crackled, it is not a dinnerware product, okay? So that is one of the reasons why we chose to do this on an 8x10. Also, you guys, it is so pretty. If you can just, since this is an 8.5 by 11, a regular sheet, you can find some really pretty frames. And this looks so good with the real frame around it. It just takes it up one more level. So this is Classic Crackle. We're going to be also using Sculpting Medium. And you can see I recycled one of my used Stroke and Coat bottles. And then I bought the tips because these tips will fit on the 2 ounce. It'll also fit on the 8 ounce and it'll fit on your pints. So I like having these extra tips because I can buy some bottles or I can use some of my older Stroke and Coat bottles to put my product in. Cobblestone works nicely in a bottle also. So those. And that's how we're getting our textured line right here, which gives a nice little bit of a dimension. And then with this, the cactus having some dimension, and then the crackle, I thought this was a really, really pretty project. And again, just to beat it into our heads, this is not dinnerware safe. We would not put this on a plate. You could put this on the outside of a bowl or outside of a mug or any place that you're not going to have dinnerware surfaces or knives and forks beating on it, okay? Colorize it with Stroke and Coat, and you can see I have teal next time was on your list. I was out, so I use speckled teal next time. Works the same, just has a little speckles in it. We'll use tuxedo, sour apple, which is one of my favorite colors, cutie pie coral, and a dandelion. So we have quite a few different colors, but we don't use much of any one of the colors here at all. I thought this was, if you were going to do a workshop or a class, this was a very cost-effective workshop because it doesn't take very much. You can probably use 4 or 5 people can probably get enough product of the sculpting medium at a 1 4 ounce jar. It just doesn't take much at all. So I also wanted to show you that we have 2 other classic crackles. Where's my camera? We have white with the crackles and then China Sea. It's kind of a bluish one. And as we go through, I think, Krista, did you find the bird on a wire picture that had both of these? If not, it'll be in the follow-up email.
I'll look for it right now so we can show it in a little bit.
It's in the archive under canvases.
Okay.
Let's talk a minute about stilting this. I just now thought of this. I should have brought some stilts with me because Mako worked really hard on making sure that this canvas doesn't warp. It's not as easy as you would think since it's not supported. So pretend these are stilts. If you have some bar stilts, you can put bar stilt on all 4 corners. That way you're giving an even distribution of the weight is evenly distributed and it will prevent warping. That's one way of stilting it. You can also get as large of a stilt as possible and put it in here so that it's trying to evenly distribute the weight. Or, you know, if you have a couple of smaller ones, you can put more than one in here to try to support this evenly. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And then the last option is if there is no glaze right here, you can just dry foot it. And that will give it even distribution of weight as well. So my friends, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take the pattern. You're going to take a piece of clay carbon paper, and we've talked about this a bunch, is that you always want to test this to see which side transfers. All you have to do is lay it down on the bisque and see if it leaves a line, which mine did. And then I write this side up so I don't have to go through that over and over. You put the clay carbon paper onto the canvas, and then we're going to trace it on. Now I extended my lines a little bit because I really wanted the cactus to fill up the entire space. So I brought it up. If not, if I brought it down, I would have had a couple inches up here, and that just wasn't my artistic eye. So you can lay it on there how you want, and we're going to trace this bad boy on. I like using an ink pen. Typically, I'll try to use one with color that's centered the way I want it, because that way I can see where I've already marked. Right now, I'm using a black one, and then I have a black line on a black line, and it's not as easy to see where I've traced. But as long as you don't let this move, you can always lift it up and peek and see if it's showing. So what's nice is we are going to be painting directly on bisque. We don't have any base coating. We don't have to worry about dry time. So this project doesn't take all that long. I thought it was fun and easy for the really pretty look that you get. I was pleasantly surprised. And as I work on with the different products, we will talk about the performance aspects, and Krista will pop onto the website so we can show you where you can find the information. I keep moving my pattern. Bad instructor. Ooh, I finished first. So you can see I have nice lines on there. Since the glaze, there's no glaze and it's not damp, this works really good. The clay carbon paper can be a little bit tricky on damp glaze or black. Dark glaze, it doesn't show very good. I'm going to try to, there we go. So now you can see both. So what we're going to work on first is you're going to get your snowfall and mix them up. The snowfall, mine is a little bit thick. Plastic still breathes a little bit. So I'm going to get my palette knife out and I'm going to mix this up. You can see that's a little thicker than it normally is. If you have a newer jar, you probably have a little bit of a water head on the top and it's a little thinner, but get a palette knife or stir stick or something and get down in there and mix it up good. I'm going to go ahead and use mine fairly thick because then I don't have to do as many coats. And I'm going to plop some out onto my palette, also known as a little styrofoam plate. And I'm going to follow the directions and do exactly as Elizabeth said. She would be so proud of me. We're going to use the pointed round, and we're going to apply one thick coat to each section of the cacti. So we're looking for this brush, pointed round. It's not as long. Typically in all of our sessions, we use these script liner, the CB106 script liner. Today, we're going to be using the Reflections brush, the number 8 round, because it's just a little bit stiffer. And we always prime our brush with some water. I'm going to strip it out the extra with my fingers. And I'm just going to take this and load it up onto my brush. And you can see I'm just going to drop it down here, and it's going to go on fairly thick. So I would just want one good coat. Well, I guess it doesn't matter what I want, does it? It's what we're going to do is apply one thick coat on here. And it's okay, you guys, if you have ridges. See how I have some lumps and bumps? I think that really adds a little bit to the design, because then the cactus has a little bit of dimension to it. So can you see that's on there nice and thick, a little dimensional and a little uneven, a little lumpy bumpy, kind of like my thighs with cellulite. All right. So the sculpting medium, guys, is really cool. It has, you can use it a bunch of different ways. And you'll notice in Mako's project library, we also use this with a stencil. We will lay a stencil down onto the bisque and then take a squeegee or an old credit card or something like that, scoop up the sculpting medium, and then you run it across the stencil and it fills in all the opening. And I try to, you know, pull it across, filling that in. And then when you lift off the silk screen, avoid the little flowers, you guys. We're just doing the cactus. Oops. Woo-hoo-hoo. I liked how that dropped exactly where I wanted it. It fills up the silk screen. And so you lift the stencil, I'm sorry, not silk screen. You lift it up before it's completely dry, but set enough that it's not going to move. And it gives you a dimensional textured design. So it's really pretty and cool. Sculpting medium is almost like a cameo in the fact that it is somewhat translucent. So if you put on an even, not like this, but an even coat over another color, you can see that background color. Okay, so it has some very cool properties. It's a little smoother. Snowfall is a little fizzier. And because of the name, it is used a lot more on Christmas trees than anything else. But both of these glazes are textured, dimensional, and can be used in design work like we're doing right now. And you can also put one coat of Stroke and Coat over both glazes, Snowfall and Sculpting Medium, to change the color, which is what we're going to do over here. I just think this is so pretty. I think our designer did a really nice job coming up with this look. And, you know, succulents and cactus are still trending big time. So this is an appropriate project for the time. What questions do you have for me while we're just applying a nice heavy coat using your pointed round? I like the fact that it can be uneven and random. Right now, I would be fiddling so much if this was supposed to be a very smooth, even coat. It would just send me probably over the edge. Show them some different things, because I think it'll really help you see in the fired sculpting medium compared to the Snowfall to decide which product you would want to use. Krista's my techie one. She gets all this stuff done much faster than I do. I'm always like, Krista, how do I do this?
Well, I can show you some projects, or I can show you the website, but I'll show you some projects first and then we'll go to the website.
Okay.
I was just trying to get them organized a little bit better. Let's see.
Okay.
I will show you some, let me see if I can get these in the order that they make sense. Oops, let me put it this way.
Hi there. Is it possible to use the sculpting medium at cone 5?
Let's look. So on the label, okay, what happens on cone 5 or cone 6, it's going to turn glossy. So here it's a little bit more matte and textural. I do think it flattens a little bit more. It's not on the label, but you can use it, but there is going to be a little bit of a difference on the fired finish.
Okay. How about
Excellent.
trailing it? How about trailing it in a bottle? That would that work very well?
Yeah,
Okay.
you could still do that.
And can you put a transparent glaze over that trailing, for example?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
a stoneware and glaze transparent over it. Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, good question. Oh, how pretty.
Okay.
There's our sample. Since we don't have our original sample, things happen. So this is going to be really cool. I love how there's so many different products in this one thing. Elizabeth does a really great job, but when we say we want to do this, she just really hits the mark. So you're going to use a lot of different stuff here. And we'll have a few more things to show you. This is Snowfall. We did wax resist for the word joy. Actually, yeah, you can do that, or you can scrape out. You know, you can draw the word on there and then put your snowfall around it. But either way will work fine. And we like having the little eyes and things over here. It's really just a cute little idea. And you can certainly do this on a canvas too, do little snowballs or snowmen all over the front of it. Would be fun. Love, this is just foundation shears. And then we put snowfall on the edges for the trees and then wrap them with some little jute.
Yeah, I hope you guys can see that the texture on the snowfall is a little more textured. It's not as cameo as a sculpting medium.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
Fancy. Let's try another one here. So this one, this whole snowman's body is snowfall. So we did stroking coat, like speckled stroking coat and other things here, but the whole body, you can see his face has texture on it. So that's totally a different way to use it, using it on an entire piece, kind of like we did on those little ornament snowballs.
Yeah, you can sponge it on, or you can use a brush to apply it. You can put it in a slip trailer.
Exactly. These have the crackle down here on the bottom. And we're going to be talking about crackle in a little bit, but you can see on the stems, one has bigger cracks and one has smaller. It has to do with the application. And then you can see the snowfall on top of this. You could also use sculpting medium, but as Teddy's going to tell you, they look a little different when they're fired. Here's just a little bit of snowfall on this flamingo's hat. Kind of a fun little accent to it, just a little touch. And we have snowfall on this little elf. Perfect, gives some nice texture. And this is sculpting medium. Do you want me to go ahead and talk about sculpting medium too, or just wait a little bit?
Let's wait a little bit.
Okay, that's all you guys get.
A lot of the tips do not come open. So there's a couple of different things. The directions on here is Elizabeth said to cut the tip. I very seldom ever cut that tip because it makes the opening really, really huge. So I like to take either a bamboo skewer or a toothpick and I push it in and I pull it out. Or if you have the little metal tips, you can puncture the opening, okay? So you're gonna open that tip up. You're going to pour some into your empty bottle. And then I always like to start it on a palette first so that we don't get little air bubbles. And what we're going to do is we're going to outline, see, my little flower. This is also going to give us a nice little texture. But what also will work is we're going to fill in with stroke and coat. And so this will act as a little dam for the stroke and coat color. And we can do a drop and fill or a, push and pull type. See, so it gave me some dimension again. All right, so while I still have my bottle out, I'm going to do my lines on the inside. Now, on the directions, it just says the lines. If you want to outline the entire thing, it's your art, go for it.
Yeah, you can see how you could make all sorts of texture in there if you wanted. I mean, you don't want to go crazy because you have so much texture in the cactus, but on a different project, even you could do little lines and all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. Okay, now I'm getting my lines a little bit better. I'm getting even pressure on there. On this one, I'm going to outline the whole pot. I just want to see how that looks. It's my art.
I think it'll give it nice depth, kind of make it stand off the canvas a little bit.
Yeah. And since I'm going to have a couple of these canvases, why not try them a little bit differently?
Right. I think it's a great idea because then you can see how they get, if somebody does that, or you might like to look better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so you can see that when I laid this down and I laid my tip on here and kind of guided my hand a little bit, I got better, smoother lines than when I tried to let it just drop on here and I didn't have as much steadiness to my hand.
Now you could always just take a brush and kind of even that out, couldn't you? Just move it around a little bit.
Uh-huh. That's a good one. Let me see. Here, I'll get a little bitty.
Yeah.
I hate that
Always
these
a way to fix things.
cameras are reversed, you know. I put it where I think it should go and then I'm off camera. So
All right.
you know, kind of clean this up a little bit.
Just kind of, it makes the little thing a little wider, but it looks a little bit more even. Just whatever you want to do, because you can totally manipulate both of these things.
Right.
Because sometimes we do, like that flamingo mug I showed y'all, that's applied with a brush, you know, just kind of moved around.
Okay. And since we've talked, this is really nice. You should be able to touch your snowfall. I had to look to make sure I said the right word.
Whatever's on your
You should be able to
cactus.
touch the cactus area, and it's dry. And I swear, I haven't drank anything other than Diet Dr. Pepper. It's just,
It's all good.
you know, it's the Stroke and Coat color onto our palette. We're going to get some Cutie Pie Coral. I just hit it for myself. There we go. Little Cutie Pie Coral. I like this color a lot. And you're going to need your damp sponge. We're going to apply some of, Krista, you want to show the picture again? Pretty
Oh,
please.
sure. Yep.
If you can't see it on my.
Yeah, let me get back to that one because I have the other one queued up. Yeah, I wish I could share a screen and have you on there, but this will work.
Yeah.
There we go. I can kind of see. I can
Thank
still see
you.
a little bit.
All right. So, okay, I'm such a dork. I'm like pointing to my screen as if you guys can see me. Okay, so you see around the edges, we took a sponge with Cutie Pie Coral and just dabbed some sponging around it. You can see that it's darker in some areas. Thank you for being my pointer.
You're welcome.
Krista. And some lighter. So you're always going to get your sponge wet first. That way it doesn't suck up all your glaze. You're going to lightly pounce into your color. And then I do blot it off to the side just to make sure I don't have a big blob of color on my sponge. And then we're just going to go around the edge. We're going to pounce some color to border this. You can do the side if you want to, just artist choice, because we're going to apply the Classic Crackle over this, which is nice. Now, on Classic Crackle, we have some videos on Mako's YouTube channel. Typically, we do not recommend putting a Classic Crackle over a Stroke and Coat unless it's a thin coat like we're doing here. Typically, because the Stroke and Coat is such a stable glaze, it won't allow the Classic Crackle to do its thing. But with this thin coat, we're good, okay? So one of the videos shows where I used Classic Crackle by itself over an underglaze and then over Stroke and Coat. And with one thin coat of Stroke and Coat underneath it, it still did its job. But if I put 2 and 3 coats of Stroke and Coat on here and then applied the Classic Crackle, it would not work. Okay, so that's a little tip for you.
I did a Tips Tuesday along those lines, Teddy. I did a Tips Tuesday, I think it was last week, and I showed Classic Crackles and showed how you actually make the crackles show up later. I don't know if Teddy's going to be doing that today or not, but just in case you need a refresher, just check out Mako Creative Studios page and you can see it on there.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it, but since I don't have the fired one, but you'll show your picture and then I'll talk about it.
Sure thing.
Can I just ask another little question? Sorry to be a nuisance.
Of course.
No problem.
I've only got the white crackle glaze. I haven't got the transparent. So given what you've just said, would it be better to paint the white crackle glaze first and then put the bit of Cutie Pie Coral around the edge after rather than the other way around?
Yes, that's exactly what I would do, because the white is, and we're putting 3 coats on, the white is opaque enough that it would cover it. So yes, Susan, excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Teacher's pet, teacher's pet.
Be careful, my sister's listening. She'll have something to say to me later on today.
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
All right, I'm gonna wipe this off so I can use it for our next colors. Dandelion. We're gonna create our little palette right now. Just a little bit. Some teal next time. This is an intense color. And like I said, I was out of teal next time. So I'm using the speckled, which I just think is just going to add a little bit of extra pop to it, you know, visual interest. That's okay. We really don't need very much, especially of the teal next time, because we're going to be thinning down these colors. And the cutie pie coral we'll do later. We're going to fill in the flowers. Okay. So I'm going to switch over to my script liner, because you guys know I'm obsessed with the script liner. Because of these long bristles, it holds a lot of glaze, and I can do nice long brush strokes and fill out the whole thing at one time. Again, I'm going to prime it because it's a natural hair bristle, strip out the extra water with my brush. And actually, I'm going to leave a little extra water in here because I want to thin down this teal next time. It is an intense color. So I'm going to be thinning these colors down. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some depth. And I did all of the teal next time on the right side of all my cactus, as if the light was coming from this side, so that I've got it blended in. And what you can do is you can add a little bit of water if you have it too dark. I didn't like my, you know, real hard edge there, so I lightened it up. And I'm not even going to clean my brush. I'm going to come back with water on my brush and some of the sour apple. And I'm going to come in and we're changing the color of our snowfall. Now I don't even trust myself to call it the right name. I am looking at my sheet every time to make sure I say the right color. So you can see I'm just kind of adding a little bit in. I'm going to play with it where it's basically a watercolor effect. What's beautiful about the watercolor effect is there's no right or wrong. So you can see how thinned out I have that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to add this in. I'm going to shade this in here. Pick up some of my sour apple with the same wet brush and play and blend. Make sure you go down over the edge so you don't have any white snowfall showing. And if I wanted a little bit more intense, I can even come back in here and add just full strength 1 coat of the sour apple on there. Okay. I love this because there's no wrong, man. You just, watercolor is hard to mess up, you know, unless I kept a very harsh line. But by being able to just thin it out with a little water in the brush, it really makes it pretty.
Now I can see why people like to watch people paint, like Bob Ross, because it's very soothing to watch you do this watercolor. It's like watching the blending of the colors.
You know what? I agree with you. I have caught myself literally where my mouth started kind of dropping. I'm like, I've watched some other people. It is kind of fun and soothing.
I think with watercolor, especially because it's just, you don't know what's going to happen exactly. You drop on some color and it blends.
Yeah.
I could also see this done like horizontally, and you had several little pots of cactus in them,
Well, that'd be fun.
you know, had them different kinds or succulents or something. That'd be really fun. Another option for this piece.
Yeah.
I just did the video today when I'm at Mako about the clay canvases. You guys can look for that, just giving some different ideas of things to do with it. I just love it. I think it's such a versatile piece.
I wish you would post that outtake. That just, oh my God. We
Yeah, we will.
tormented you so badly that day.
Y'all, we do videos here, you know, to share our products and ideas with you. And we filmed a whole lot last time we were here together. And we just got the giggles, and one of our marketing team created an outtake video that had all sorts of fun giggles and Teddy laughing hysterically.
I got to laughing so hard, it's a wonder I didn't wet my pants. I mean, I steamed up my glasses. I could barely breathe. And it was all because I was just totally tormenting Krista. And she was just, as a champ, putting up with this. I could tell by the very end, though, you're like, I've had enough.
I think I was trying to figure out what I was going to say. Let's see. Someone asked the price of the clay canvas. Now that, you know, distributors have different prices for things. I'll look up one and give you kind of a basic idea. Since we don't sell direct, I don't keep track of the prices in my brain.
Same here.
Plus, there's a lot of other stuff in my brain. Let's see.
Okay, I think that one looks really pretty. For some reason, I like the way that one came out. And so you can also vary the intensities while you're looking at it. This one is really, because it's so much bigger, I've got the teal next time a little heavier. This is smaller, so I kind of lightened it up. So I'm kind of hoping that I get a little bit of depth perception by adding some a little darker than others.
So the clay canvas is one website I'm finding. They're around $5.30 or $6.50 for the $5.30 for the 6x6, and this other one said $6.30 for the 8x10. So it depends on, you know, who you purchase through, what country you're in, of course, all that. I mean, I'm just going by the American dollar. But they're a good price, and I really like that you can encourage customers to buy more of them, because if you do an artful display on your wall, having different ones going different shapes, I mean, different directions, you know, vertical, horizontal, mixing them together, doing elements of one design on one, or, you know, abstract, even just using similar colors would be fun.
Hey, Christmas, I have 2 of these. Guess what you're getting for Christmas?
Oh, goody.
Actually, I have to send them to Mako since I broke the original. Okay, so that's a little darker than I want. So I'm just going to add some water to my brush, kind of back off some of this color, and then load my sour apple a little heavier on here.
And
yeah, I love the fact that you can manipulate all these colors.
Yeah, and you're really just painting on white, just like you'd be painting on the white bisque. So if you think about how the colors are going to react on a white bisque, it's going to react the same way on here. You are going to get a little of that texture, which is nice though with the snowfall in the background.
I do think that I would probably take the cactus and do it around a bowl, especially a big serving bowl, and maybe even just skip the vase and do those around the outside of a bowl. I think it'd be very cool.
I do too.
Okay, so I'm just going to keep working. You guys work at your own pace, but I'm just going to let you know what the next step is. So here is where we use the cutie pie coral on the flowers. And what I did is I switched over to my 10-aught liner. This poor thing has been so abused. That is also why I really like the acrylic handle, because it's not so abused by leaving it in water, okay? But it works fine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to hold this up so you can see it. What I call this a drop and fill. I'm really just going to scoop up a decent amount of glaze on my brush and literally let it drop down into the opening. And like I said, the sculpting medium now is working as a dam. So I don't really need to do brush strokes in here. And I can just take it and push it and pull it. And since I have so much in this small area, we're only going to do this once. I'm just going to fill it up and pull this glaze around because it's on so thick. Pretty. Okay, get it closer. I'll just scoop it up. You can almost see it drippy because there's so much on there. So I can just drop it in there and then just pull it around. This is nice. So far, everything we've done is really good for a novice because they're not having to worry about a lot of perfect brush strokes, getting 3 coats on even, with the randomness of our snowfall. I don't trust myself. Snowfall. That's very helpful. It doesn't have to be even. The watercolor makes it even. The drop and fill, anybody can get the color in there, and it's only on there once. Now, the only time it's going to get a little tricky on application is when we get to the classic crackle. Easy peasy.
Yeah, I like that it gives you a little border.
Isn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, by doing that, I mean, this might be something if you're working with people that are a little physically challenged or children, you know, by creating the dam and the outline ahead of time, they can do the drop and fill and still do a really pretty design. All right. And then the last design step, you guys continue working at your pace. And if you have any questions, unmute yourself and just let me know. We're going to take our script liner with our dandelion, and we're going to apply 2 coats of the dandelion over our lines, and we'll stay within the lines here. Since this one, I outlined it with the liner, the sculpting medium in the bottle. I probably will leave the outside white instead of yellow. I don't know. We'll just see what I feel like. On here, I did it like the directions, and I used black to outline. I do think outlining for new people is not that easy. So when we actually go to do the outlining on the cactus here, you'll see that mine is very random, loosey-goosey. Okay. And, you know, you can always turn your canvas. A lot of people forget that you can move it around. I'm going to load my brush up, see how well I do. And then this is why I love this brush. Look at that long coat. And then I can just turn it over, use the rest of the glaze. It would have not been nice, however, if I'd cleaned the teal next time out of my brush before I applied this. Oh, well, there's a little shading now. So I can stay within the lines, or I can paint over the lines. We can put the stroke and coat over this dimension and make the whole thing. And that's what I'm going to do. Make the whole thing yellow with some texture and depth. All right. 1 good coat. We're going to put 2 good coats on here. I like it much better with the yellow over it. It doesn't look so stark.
I like that you have, like, this is going to have nice, good coverage with a couple of coats, and the other part was more watercolory, you know?
Right. Good point. Okay, I'm doing what I tell people not to do. I'm putzing around too many strokes. Fully loaded brush, lay it down, pull it, do the other side. Got to make sure that up against the sculpting medium, you really get it, because I'm getting some bald spots just because there's texture. So just be aware of that. Anybody have any questions, surprises? Wasn't expecting this, love it. I think it's an interesting use on one piece to have sculpting medium, snowfall, and classic crackle with stroke and coat. I think that's an interesting use of products.
I suppose for the outline, you could use designer liner as well, and just use not a solid line, but just a hint of where the line should be with that.
Definitely can use design liner, especially since this is not a food surface piece. You know, you're not going to have to worry about clear glazing it if you don't want to, if you can leave it a little matte and textural.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, so I'm going to apply my second coat because pretty much the shine is off. Since we were painting on bare bisque, you know, that earthenware is so porous, it just sucked up my glaze on the first go around.
Teddy, there's a question. You've talked a little bit about this, but can you tint the snowfall or sculpting medium with the glaze to add color to the lines drawn with a squeeze bottle? Oh, I see. She's asking if you could like mix it, I think.
Yeah, you know, we used to say no, but I have seen so many people have success with it, where let's say instead of, you know, if you wanted yellow lines, you could take your squeeze bottle and add a little stroke and coat. Yeah, it'll work. Sometimes it may hold it down a little bit, where maybe it's not, the snowfall's not as fizzy, or the sculpted medium doesn't raise as much, but it does work. A lot of people will do that on popcorn bowls. They'll take their finger and they'll use snowfall and do like the Mickey Mouse ears so it looks like popcorn. And so they'll mix the yellow in it so it looks like yellow buttered popcorn. And they said it worked.
Good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I would do it and test it. Don't do it on like a prized possession that you spent, you know, 3 days working on first, and then it doesn't work. And then you go, well, Teddy said. Teddy also says to test. We can go ahead and outline the cactus and put the little stickers, little prickly marks on there with your black now. And then we can add the classic crackle in the background, or you can do the classic crackle and then when it's all dry, do the black. 6 1/2 dozen the other. Depends on whether you think you're going to rake your hand across it. Okay. So while we're at this space, let's talk a little bit about the classic crackles. And this is where I'd love it, Krista Babista, if you could go to the website. Yeah, I could definitely, yes, if I wanted to at this point, also take my, even though I put this dimensional, I could outline it, which is really going to make it pop even more. So more options.
Yeah. Now, did you want me to walk you through here? You just show you.
Yeah, show them how, where the information is. Let's talk a little bit about classic crackles and especially, you know, why it doesn't crackle.
All right. So let's see, we're going to go to color up here. This is one way to get to it. and then scroll over here and just click on Classic Crackles. It kind of turns purple. It changes color a little bit when you click on it. My internet is a little bit slow right here. Let's see, let's get rid of this. There we go. All right, so here we have obviously a picture here with the mushrooms, and we showed another one earlier that has the crackle on the bottom. And then you can see color swatches here, just like with all of our colors that we sell. You can select by firing temperature. So you can always see how they will do at 06 or 6. Now, when you look on here, you can see them together. You can see they don't do quite as large of crackles when they're fired to 6, which is kind of interesting. The white doesn't really do much of anything, but I love that you can see the difference in how these can get at different temperatures. And of course, all Mako glazes have on the label how they change at mid-range. And then you click on this tab here and go to the product details. So this will have safety data sheet, general use, all the tips, you know, not using it for dinnerware because it has that crazed crackledy surface. And then just more information about it, different ways to use it, how you can combine it with other colors. And I love how every product that we sell has an FAQ down here, so you can learn more about each product down at the bottom.
Yeah, let's click on that. Do you have any tips for making the crackle, you know, improving that? Let's see what we say in there. Because this, you know, because the crackle is kind of funny. Sometimes it won't crackle. And, you know, the crackle glaze is designed so that it doesn't fit the clay body in the firing process, which makes the glaze craze. And that's exactly what we want in this product. Some things that you can try to do to improve the crazing, because we do have sometimes some of the bisque from China, the glaze fits too good and you don't get enough of the crazing. So what you can do is kind of thermal shock it, you know, get it, lift the lid, expose it to cooler air, take the peepholes out, pop that open a little bit. When the piece is still warm, you can take a spritzer bottle with some water and you can spritz it, and that will help aid in it if you're having any issues. And then try a different clay body, because like I said, sometimes, and it seems like the ones from China is where we've noticed it the most, that it just fits too good. Oh, well, how isn't that a funny thing? Because we do always want the glaze to fit with the clay bodies as much as possible. But in this case, we don't. So you might have to goose it along depending on what's going on with your clay body. Okay, what's another one? Classic crackles, are they luster compatible? What's the answer, Vanna? Yes,
They are.
they are. Woohoo! Okay, this is the biggest thing, is a lot of times once we fire this and we take it out of the kiln, sometimes you cannot see the crackles. You can set and let it sit a couple of days and you should hear some pinging, and it may have a delayed crazing, okay? But the key is we're going to highlight or accentuate. Go ahead and click on that one, Mamacita. Oh, I thought we might have a little picture. So what you're going to use is you're going to stain it. And people have their own thing. Some people use tea. I always use Mako's, there it is, Softies acrylics. Of course, you can use Dunkin' acrylics also. Take a soft towel or a rag. I've even used a coffee filter. And you're going to, after this is fired, you're going to put that across the classic crackles so that the stain goes down into the openings, the crazing, and it stains it so that it shows more. So we're making it look like grandma's china, essentially, by staining it. You have to do that. You can use an India ink or acrylics or mineral spirits, but you need to do that additional step after it's fired for the crackles to show. All right. So if you're like me, the first time I did it, I pulled out of the kiln. I'm like, well, I don't see my crackles. What the heck? What did I do wrong? You know, I didn't stain it. People forget that step. Anybody have any good experience with the crackles? One thing I do want to point out, the classic crackles, you can design on top of it with Mako's products, and it's not going to move. Somebody told me that the Duncan, they very seldom taught with the Duncan crackles because it moved in distorted designs. So this is one nice thing, is you can actually design with it underneath or on top of it, and it's not going to distort your design. For my Duncan people.
And I love that all this is on our website too.
Yes. Yes.
I've used the India ink and it looks fantastic, but it's really, really messy putting it on and then wiping it off.
Okay, I've never used that. I just use the acrylics because I have it, you know.
Easy peasy. I also like, a lot of times I see crackles done with black acrylic on here. And I think you could also do some interesting things if you're using some other darker colors. Lighter colors aren't going to show up quite as much, especially if you're using like the green tea or the colors. But if you're using the clear or the white, I think using other colors to stain it would be really nice.
Good point.
My tip to you is to add a little, if you dilute your acrylic, put a drop of dishwashing soap in there. It will get rid of the surface tension and stains it much easier. And it's easier to get it off too.
Oh, I've never done it in
another
the
clever
product.
trick.
I've left it on a brush so that I can clean my brush better, but I never dropped it into the acrylic. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Just dilute the acrylic and put in a drop of dishwashing soap, and then you fill up your cracks.
Nice. Thank you.
Awesome. See, I love it when we can share tips and tricks. Okay, friends. So like I said, on the design work, on the black on here, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You can do it all now. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to start applying my transparent classic crackle, which is going over the stroke and coat. And again, if you ever use it with stroke and coat, just do one coat or a thin application of stroke and coat with your classic crackles, because stroke and coat is a very stiff glaze and it could prevent it from doing its job with as little as we have on here. And we've already proven that it works. So I'm going to put one coat on while it's drying. I'm going to do my little black, and then we're going to put a total of 3 coats of your transparent classic crackle around. And you can see that my typical attention of a gnat, I kind of got over some of my other designs. I'm intentionally going to leave that because I want to see what happens when I have it on top of, one thin coat on top of my sculpting medium and my stroke and coat. I'm just curious. So I'm not going to clean mine up. Because we do have some smaller areas, I'm going to use a couple of different brushes to apply this. So I'm switching over to my pointed round at this point so that I can get in this area, and I'm going to apply a generous coat. And I might even have to go in with my 10-aught liner so that I can get into these little tight areas. So we're going to apply 3 coats, allowing it to dry until the shine is off between each coat. This will be stilted, and we talked about making sure with these canvases that you get an even distribution of support when you're firing it so that it doesn't warp.
Now, did you answer this question and I just missed it because I was thinking of something else? What would happen if you painted your transparent over the whole thing, over the sculpting medium and everything?
You may not get any crackling. I'm
thinking because like when I
coat right here, we won't get the crackling because we have 2 heavy coats, 2 good coats. So that's not going to crackle. I'm not positive because of the thickness of the snowfall, what that's going to do. So I guess my answer is I don't know.
I think of, especially with the layers, like you're saying, I think it doesn't. So the way you're doing it makes a lot of sense because you're not wasting your crackle glaze on an area that's really not going to crack in the first place.
Yeah, I know for sure it's not going to on the yellow vase part.
Yeah.
I'm just not positive over this.
It'd be a good thing to test sometime. Really, my point in that was
I'm
just
thinking, I wonder if I should go
remembering
over the
that
whole
you-
thing.
that you don't have to put the whole thing covered over the whole thing, because why would you put it over something if you know it's not going to crackle? So if you test it and find out it doesn't work on top of that, then you'll just know for next time, just paint around it.
Yeah, whoever asked the question, I want you to try it. And then post
It was
it.
me.
Well, period.
It was me.
I am curious about that, because if it doesn't crackle, then you
Yeah.
know, no big deal.
Exactly. But you're using your glaze that you don't necessarily want to
Yeah,
use for no reason.
yeah. And the classic crackle goes quite a ways on here also. I would, if you're doing a class, I would probably budget 2 people per jar.
That's
You
good
might
info.
be able to get 3, but you know, just to make sure you're not running tight, I would budget 2 people per jar. On the other glazes, gosh, like I said, I think you could probably get 4 people with the snowfall. The sculpting medium, I just have a couple of bottles and let people share. I wouldn't give everybody their own bottle. You know, it's just a way to make it a little bit more cost effective for you and not having to buy a bunch of products.
Yeah. And even like you could be really savvy with your supplies, or really good stewards of your supplies, by creating a lot of projects that use some of the same colors, you know. Don't have to be the exact same colors, but it would help you out that way too. It's kind of a fun challenge to say, okay, I have 6 colors. I'm going to do some projects. I'm not going to use all 6 on each one. I'm going to kind of mix it up.
Look at you.
Teddy, you were asking about what projects we'd use, and I have to say that the use of foundation sheer has been an absolute godsend to me, because the number of times people say they don't want to do a background color, and then they change their mind and they've already painted the thing. And I say, oh, it's not a problem now, because you can have any one of these colors, just paint right over the top and it'll come out perfectly. And it's been really good, because then they get a background color and they just paint over the design they've just painted. It's absolutely fantastic. So thank you for that. It's really good.
Oh my gosh, that's great to hear. What color do you use the most, do you think?
Well, I bought some, because I use ceramics now in Austria, and I bought a selection of the palest colors, because obviously I was a bit nervous at first, you can understand.
Oh yeah. It looks
so
like
I've
you're
got,
gonna ruin it, yeah.
yeah, so I've got a pale green, which is fantastic. And the champagne they love. And what's the other one? Hang on, let me go get the sheet. The other one that they like the best. Yes, I've got the pale blue. So the pale green 224 and the pale blue 214 and the champagne. I'm going to have to buy bigger bottles. So it really has been a great success. Thank you.
That's really good to know.
It also gets your customer doing the glaze for you, so you don't have to go dip it now.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't always trust them though.
Right.
You say paint 2 coats, and you know, like I did a thing the other day with some kids, and they were using cobblestones, and I said, after you've painted it, paint the cobblestone the same color, so a coat of white or a coat of black, depending on what one they used. And they swore blind they had. And then when they came out the kiln, 3 out of the 4 were good. The 4th one had all split and gone everywhere. And she was the one I had my doubts about. And she hadn't painted it. So there you go.
It happens.
Yeah.
There's always one, isn't there?
Yeah, but the foundation sheer is absolutely fantastic, because I never really understood what the point of that product. And it's been absolutely fantastic. It really has saved me so many times when they change their mind halfway through the afternoon. You think, oh my goodness. Anyway, it doesn't matter now.
Oh, that's great. If I still had a studio, that's how I would do all my handprints. Is I would let them do all the handprints, the decorating, and then the sheer over it, because that way, just like you said, they get a nice background.
Yeah, and also if they make a mistake, you can wash it off and start again.
Yes. Yes. Not having to base coat it and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, like I said, the first time I did it, I mean, I did it on that sample that we did when we did those flowers in the session, and it worked fine. And then a custom came in, a girl I know, and she did one of those faceted bears that we'd done at Christmas.
Oh yeah.
And she painted black designs, and then she wanted a pink background. And I said, yeah, it'll work. Yeah, put it in and thought, oh God, I hope it does. But it did. It was great.
It is a little frightening because you are putting that glaze over there and it looks like it's going to be opaque because it covers the design, but then when it fires, it goes sheer. But it is a little frightening, especially like you're saying, if it's somebody else's work.
And for the first time, you're thinking, oh my goodness, I hope this, if not Teddy, I'm writing to you. It was great. It was good. It was really good. Thank you.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you very much. All right, so you can see it's going to go from white to kind of pink, but that pink color is going to change out. So I'm going to switch over to my outlining. What?
Do we need to worry about which direction we're going in this since we're doing 3 coats, or it doesn't matter because it's crackled anyway?
You know, I try to go in the same direction whenever I apply. Good question. So I'm going with the shape of the piece back and forth, and especially I switched over to my soft fan brush. You know, fully loaded, nice long coats, and I do try to keep it all in one direction, no cross hatching.
Good deal.
So I'm going to let that set up, and then I'm going to go with my outlining now. Outlining to me is not easy. Most of you guys have a lot of experience with glazing, but in case somebody's kind of new to it, what I like to do is Mako Stroke and Coat Black is so heavily pigmented that even with one coat, you're going to get a nice line. But it is thicker, the viscosity of it's a little thicker. So what I try to do is I put a little water on my brush and then I pull out a little bit of the black so it's a little bit thinner. And then I have a nice fully loaded brush. And my outlining is random, loosey-goosey. The more you stay on the tip, the finer the line. And what's also nice with having that dimensional glaze there, I found that when I'm outlining this, it's really a little bit easier because I have something to push up against. So I typically try to pull towards myself, keeping it finer. I'm also using my little finger to provide some stability, especially with me holding this up like this, trying to show you as close as possible. No, I left a little bit too much water on my brush. It's gonna be thicker. And then what you'll do, Ronald has a good point. Make sure your finger's playing, because now you're gonna be putting stuff on here. All right, so you can see I'm just adding some little flicks of color. I like it when I start running out of glaze on my brush because then I can get some heavier, lighter, little prickly cactus stickers, which let me tell you, if you've ever hit one of those, I used to have a cactus. Oh God, this was when I was a teenager. You know, I used to dance a lot and I was in practicing a kickball change and I kicked the cactus. Oh my gosh, it takes forever to get those out of your feet or out of your skin. I think the little barb, there's a little barb on it. So I'm just outlining my cactus. pretty. I don't like it that thick personally. But
One thing about the outline just really makes the whole design pop. I mean, it's pretty without it, but outside outline really does some nice, makes
yeah,
that color.
I agree with you. And these little stickers on here.
Yeah, it's just those little details, and they're really easy details to do.
Thank goodness. Look how pretty. It's mine is pretty. And I think I am going to outline, oh, that was still a little wet, around my little base down there, even though I have some dimension to it.
I think that'll be nice. Yeah, I'm more of a loose outline person because I'm not as good at outlining, but this brush that you're using is really great. Those liner brushes that we have.
Yeah, I do like this a lot. And I like thinning it out a little. It just pulls a little farther, a little easier.
I agree. Let's see,
Okay,
that's
this one right here is my favorite.
Yeah.
I like that, the light and the dark on there.
I like where you stop with your outline on that one for the other little pieces coming into it.
Thank you.
Yes. This is very soothing. Can we do this all day?
I would like to, quite frankly. So we appreciate you joining us because it's fun for us too.
Yeah, I have some more Crackle Glaze samples to show when you're ready, and
Okay.
some sculpting mediums too.
Yeah, whenever you want to, go ahead. I'm just kind of doing my thing.
Okay. I'll show some while everybody's kind of doing their thing. Let me get to that little project. I think sculpting medium is going to come up first. So. Okay. This is a project that we did using sculpting medium and a credit card, or a like those hotel room keys, the plastic cards. We say credit card all the time, but we don't really pull out our credit cards to use this for this project. But we scraped the sculpting medium across it and kind of just did it all different ways so you can see the texture in it. And then we also used that card, the plastic card, to apply the color. So it kind of is artsy and messy a little bit, not perfect, but I love the texture that it makes there. This is one Teddy mentioned, actually, using sculpting medium with a stencil. And this stencil, we actually held it onto the tile. I think she actually used like a little adhesive to make it stay down, and then took a plastic card again and put the sculpting medium, just scraped it over that stencil. And then once you lift it up, you have this really great design. Once it dries, we put elements and crystals on top of it. So it's a really cool thing. You can see how you can get some really cool designs by using sculpting medium with a stencil, or just using it yourself. You know, with your fingers, you can manipulate it. You can use it with a brush, a lot of different ways to apply it. This one was really fun. There's a lot of techniques wrapped up into this one, but one that we really like is we used mesh to make this texture. So we had the background color and we masked out our area with our ornament, but then we put some mesh over the top and did our sculpting medium. And then once that dried a little bit, we put the red over it and then lifted it up. And when you lift that up, you want to kind of try to lift it all up at one time, like the four corners of that, to make that cool design. So we really love that. I guess some of you might call that a bauble and not an ornament. Another one with a stencil and sculpting medium. This one's using element glazes. And I really like how you can get the depth and texture with this like you would on a textured bisque piece. So you can see where the glaze is getting darker in some areas and lighter in some areas. So if you have a flat piece and you want to add dimension, this is a great way to do it. And then the elements glazes, you know, naturally kind of change a little bit where they're applied more thick. This one is done also with the stencil with sculpting medium. Everything's brushwork except for the swirls. And that's one of our stencils that we used in the same way and then added color on top. That's on one of the canvases, obviously. Okay, now to the crackles. This is just the really simple transparent crackle. And then we used the blue or the green, I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of it, the blue crackle.
Trying to see.
Thank you. Trying to see. So we have that. And so you can see it really looks cool. It's very artsy looking. It takes this unicorn that could be more of a whimsical piece and makes it a little bit kind of a step up in the design. And of course we added designer liner to make the facets stand out more. Same thing, this one, the blue. And you can see on this one, let me zoom in a little bit, how we did not use black to highlight those accents. We used blue. There's some blue designer liner on the facets, but then when we went back in there to highlight the cracks, we used a blue acrylic. So I really love that. Same thing with this snowman. We used him with the crackle just on the snowman. You know, we had another one earlier that I showed that had snowfall, and then this one just has the crackle. Not on the jacket and scarf, but just on the snowman himself. Gives them a really vintage look. Same here on the new faceted bunny, which will be here before you know it. We can't wait. But he's really cute. I mean, what a different way to do a figurine. This again, you know, the faceted shapes are kind of an upscale type bisque shape. They're a little fun. You can make this really cute and whimsical. We have some great samples on our website done with stroking code and fun patterns. But I love this use of it too. And then adding the spots on top of that is just kind of different. Here's the one Teddy was talking about, the birds on a wire. This is one of my favorite pieces. It has the two different colors of the crackle on there, but then behind it, it's a matte glaze. So the birds, if you can see this in person, the birds are all in matte black. And then we have that crackle on top, and I just love it. If I knew where that piece was, it might go in my suitcase back to Charlotte. Here's a cobblestone. We weren't doing cobblestone on this project, but I don't think. But I just wanted to show it to you because I love it. Another product that we have that's a specialty glaze that you can also tint. It comes in white and black. The white, once you put it on there, you can do a coat of stroke and coat on top to tint it. And then you'll see whatever color is underneath that. You always have a color underneath the cobblestone. And so this is white cobblestone on top of a black gloss and then tinted. And then you could also do a background color and then do black cobblestone on top, which of course you cannot tint because it's so nice and black. I don't know that I pulled up a sample of that though. More white cobblestone. Oh, I'm sorry. That is white cobblestone that's been tinted. So you see we have a white design and then we did white cobblestone on top, but then we kind of did a little ombre. There's some gray in there. There's some blue because it's mimicking the night sky. And I think I have one more. Okay. Cobblestone out of a bottle. The Ryder bottles that Teddy was using and those tips, you can also put cobblestone in those and squirt it on something. So this was a really fun project. And more tinted cobblestone. And that's all I have for that. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you, Krista.
Welcome.
I always love show and tell.
Yes.
All right. So you can see I kind of went ahead and outlined it, even though I did the dimension. I still like the dimension going all the way around it. And I just kind of played with how I did this here. So basically what I'm saying is you can do whatever you want. You can change it up. You can add more lines, a little more texture. Did all this, and then it's 3 coats of the classic Crackle CC-101 transparent around this and on your edges, unless you plan on getting a little frame too. I always like finishing those edges off, so it is definitely a canvas work of art on your wall.
Yeah, like a gallery wrap canvas. I love that. You know, you could even put like a strip of ribbon or a rope ribbon or something around the edge. Would be really cool. Glue it on there.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
On the right frame. That would be very fun.
Yeah. Bev, it does not turn glossy. Was that sculpting medium she asked? Does
Yes.
it turn glossy when it's fired? No, it stays kind of a matte color.
I really like it also because we've done projects in the past where you take the sculpting medium and you put it on a piece and then you use your fingers to make it swirl into like a cloud or the sky. You know, it's really fun to play with.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, Bev, it only turns glossy if you fire it to a cone 6. 0.6, it'll stay matte.
So now you can see how your beautiful work is going to change into that. And you can even see on this sample, there's like, she has some little black marks going around the outlines that are totally loose. I think it's really fun that way.